In this video, I'm going to go through a process that's going on in the background at the moment, which is a validation process. It's important that you understand what it is, but also some of you might be involved in this as we go through the various qualifications and validate them. So what I've provided you with is the validation fact sheet from ASQA. So this is one of our ASQA obligations. If you look at their first statement there, it gives a definition. Validation is a quality review process that confirms your RTO's assessment system can consistently produce valid assessment judgments. So to summarise, as part of this process, we're going to analyse units within qualifications. We're going to go through and make sure our assessment tasks align with the requirements of the training package, that they've been assessed appropriately by you guys and your judgments are appropriate, and I guess they've been written in a manner that aligns with the requirements of writing assessment tasks. So I think rather than going through the fact sheet from ASQA, it's probably best for us to go through the process so you get a bit of an idea of what we'll be doing. So on this first page, pretty straightforward, we'll be naming the qualification and the codes we choose, or the units from that qualification. They may be from the same cluster, but they may not be. Again, on the second page, the unit and the qualification it's from. Here we're going to list some of the things we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be looking at assessment kits, marking guides. So this is a big one to make sure the assessments are written in line with the training package requirements. Is the marking guide providing you guys with enough information? Mapping documents, so this is where we compare the training package to make sure all elements and performance criteria have been covered off. We then look at a sample of students, which we'll talk about soon, look at the platform it's stored on, and required templates. So again, we're learning a fair bit about areas we can improve by going through this process. From here, we decide who the validators are going to be. So it'll probably be in most cases 2 to 3 people. So in the case of Emily and myself, we did the sporting qualifications. So you need to have people involved that have got currency, that have got qualifications that are appropriate. So in my case, it's probably the fact that I still work in the footy system and coach means that I've still got currency and I've got the human movement degrees and that sort of thing. So Emily and I fit this category, but one important thing, we can't be involved in the assessment decision, which means we have to be independent to the assessment tasks we're looking at. So we have not corrected the assessment tasks. So again, we're going to look at the assessment task and make sure they align with all the principles of assessment. Now, you guys would have learned about this when you did your TAE, but a lot of the first part's about have you met all aspects of the performance criteria, all aspects of the knowledge evidence. So making sure everything's covered off. Is it at an appropriate level? Are the assessment tasks based on realistic workplace activities, which in most cases we're doing pretty well with because, again, they're in a massage environment or fitness environment. So as we work through this, we're just making sure that we're applying all these principles of assessment correctly and effectively. So in this case, most of this is the responsibility of the people who have written the assessment task. So students are provided with clear and consistent information in their instructions. So this is where we're finding that, especially last year when we looked at the fitness units, we've sort of made the decision that probably they need clearer information, and that's why we've decided, based upon the validation of the fitness units last year, that we're going to provide videos with the assessment tasks, which you've seen with the Foundations of Fitness, where every assessment task now has got a video attached to it that explains the assessment task, and we're looking to roll that out across all qualifications this semester based upon that. So hopefully we see a change in the understanding. In relation to this one here, when providing work samples, how clear is it, the evidence that needs to be provided? So in some cases, it's more about what template needs to be populated and where it needs to be uploaded. Again, that's all covered in the videos. Again, instructions are written in plain English, so we're just making a decision and writing notes down in relation to the assessment tasks. Marking guides ensure consistent expectations which relate to the unit of competency. Again, we're finding that The assessment guides could probably contain more information to make it easier on you guys, but a big part of that is, again, making sure these videos clearly explain the requirements of the assessment tasks and what needs to be uploaded as evidence, because that's where we're seeing some inconsistency. Again, we're going to then check that the rules of evidence are being applied in the assessment, so valid, authentic, current, and sufficient. You would have learnt this again in your TAE, but as I mentioned, we're going to put out another video related to these things to make sure everyone does have a true understanding of what's required there. There's also instructions to the assessor. Now, in the assessor guide, at the start of the assessor guide, there's a lot of instructions in there. Guidelines on making decisions, reasonable adjustment, providing feedback to students, complaint process. It's worth you having a look over them again just to make sure you're familiar with what's in the front of those assessor guides. But as mentioned, we're going to make a video on that as well, just to make sure everyone's really clear. So we worked through all that, and again, this, as mentioned, is all we make sure that our assessments and our instructions, our assessor guides include all this information. Again, a bit more information that has to be included by the people undertaking the validation, but this is the part here that's most relevant for you guys, because what we're going to be doing here is we are going to be taking a random sample of students. So to do this, we use a method to establish the number of students we require that's been recommended by ASQA. So depending upon the amount of students that do a qualification will affect how many students we need to sample. But in say a qualification, there might be 25 students we sample. So what we do is we list those students first, and then we go into the LMS and we look at their work and the way they've been assessed. So second column, we put the assessor's name in and what the assessor judged the decision to be. And then as validators, we go through and say whether we agree with the decision. So are we finding that yes, or we wouldn't have given this answer right, or the assessor should have been asking for more information, or is there bigger problems like the assessor's only been asking them has only been requiring the students to hand up 2 programs when they should have been handing up 4 programs, or just evidence is missing. So these are some of the things we're going to be looking for. So you need to be mindful of this as you go through and correct your work to make sure you're really clear with every assessment task what's required. So after we've done this, we'll then come to a decision on how this unit is being performed and action plan. So here is where we write our outcomes and actions. So as part of that, for example, on one of the validations we've previously done, we've said, listen, we're not happy with the amount of feedback that's being provided based upon the validation of this unit. And again, we're putting some PD in place for that now. We're putting a report in place that's going to monitor the amount of feedback that's been given, but we also discussed it at the PD in January. Again, another one we found last year was that there seems to be some inconsistency in regards to what's being uploaded. Trainers were saying they were a bit confused by assessment tasks, which left us saying that maybe our instructions need to be a bit clearer. And we've decided the best method to do that is by developing the video. So this is what we do here with the action plan and make sure that's followed through. Again, what we're going to do is attach moderation, which you guys are pretty familiar with this. This is when you mark each other's work. So one trainer will then look at someone else's assessment task, and then we, as part of this moderation, we can then compare it to what our judgments have been. So for example, if Emily and I make a decision here, and then I get Kat and Aaron Healy to assess each other's work as part of the moderation, we get an idea of what they're saying compared to us as the validators. So after this is finished, you can expect Emily will be contacting you to discuss any results related to your qualifications or assessment validations where your assessment judgments have been evaluated. And the main thing is, as part of continuous improvement, for us to put steps in place to make sure we respond to things that we find as part of the validation process so we can continue to improve. If you have more questions on this process, please don't hesitate to speak to Emily or myself. But have a look over the fact sheet from ASQA because it's something you do need to be familiar with, and you do need to know that this is going on in the background.